children, we have started with photosynthesis, wherein we discussed that how the process of photosynthesis takes place, as well as we have seen that how stomata is responsible for the process of photosynthesis, and the opening and the closing of stomata, where we have the two different theories for it, which is potassium ion concentration and sugar concentration. So today what we are going to see is process of photosynthesis, that is how it is taking place. Start. Now, in process of photosynthesis, mostly the cells which are responsible are the mesophyll cells. Why the mesophyll cells is because mesophyll cells are specialized for only the process of photosynthesis. So mesophyll cells, it will be having a palisade and a spongy structure. So these are nothing but palisade means it will be ovular type of structure of cells, and spongy means like this flattened cells. So mesophyll cells, both palisade and spongy, are activated in this, means they are the principal centers for the process for this activity. So what happens during daytime is when sunlight will be falling on the leaf. Okay, sunlight falls on the leaf, the light energy is trapped by these mesophyll cells and trapped by the chlorophyll, which is present on the upper side of this mesophyll cells, especially the palisade one. Then we can say that this energy is utilized in the chemical processes which are involved in the manufacture of food, where the raw materials are used as carbon dioxide and water. So here we can see that mesophyll cells are basically the principal centers of this activity. And what are they doing? They are absorbing the or trapping the light energy. And how are they trapping this light energy? This light energy they are trapping by the palisade mesophyll cells which are present. Okay, so basically, and this is trapped by the chlorophyll which is present on this upper layer. So mesophyll cells are trapping it, and the chlorophyll which is present on its upper layer is trapping this particular sunlight, and then the chemical processes takes place. And then water which is there, it is absorbed from where? From the roots. Okay, water from the soil is taken up by the roots, and then it is sent to the stem, and finally the leaves, where it is distributed in the mesophyll tissue. So two things we saw. First is mesophyll cells, where the chlorophyll is present, it is trapping the sunlight, and then this energy is used for the process of photosynthesis. Then we have water which is absorbed from the roots, and then finally it is distributed in the mesophyll leaves. Then there is a chemical equation. You know this chemical equation for photosynthesis. Just you have to balance it. That is 6CO2 plus 12H2O in presence of chlorophyll and sunlight gives me C6H12O6, which is glucose plus water plus oxygen. So this is the reaction. So now here glucose molecule is produced. What is the glucose molecule produced? That is C6H12O6, which is a simple sugar, and that is readily soluble in water. Then molecules of water are 6 molecules of water are liberated, and that are reformed during the chain of reactions and not out of the original one. So it's been reformed. So this is the chemical equation for it. So this is how the process takes place because of the mesophyll cells which have chlorophyll, and the roots which absorb the water and send it to the stem. Now there are two different phases of photosynthesis. One is a light phase and one is a dark phase. So light phase, we say that it's a light dependent phase, and dark phase, we say it's light independent phase. So let us see what is first light dependent phase. In light dependent phase, light is playing the main role for this, and there are a lot of chemical reactions which are occurring, which are initiated by the light, by the presence of light, and therefore this is called as a photochemical phase. Why chemical phase? Is because of the presence of light. So because of the presence of light, there are a series of chemical reactions, or we can say that there are series of we can say some activities take place in succession, and we call it as a photochemical phase. Now where are these taking place? These light reaction are taking place in thylakoids. Thylakoids are they contain chlorophyll of the chloroplast. So mainly these will be taking place in the thylakoids. So let us see the reaction one by one. So we are saying that first of all there will be activation of chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll which is exposed, chlorophyll on exposure to light energy will become activated by absorbing photons. Photon is the smallest unit of light energy. Okay, so here there are two steps. First is activation of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll will be activated on exposure of the sunlight, and because of the by absorbing photons. Photons is the smallest unit of light energy. So here first the activation of chlorophyll will take place. Second step is the splitting of water. Water will be splitted. So here the absorbed energy is used in splitting up the water molecule in two components, which is hydrogen and oxygen. So here we can see water has split it into hydrogen and oxygen by releasing some electrons, which is the energy of 4 photons. This reaction is called as photolysis, which means as splitting of the light. So when water is split, water is going to be splitted into two components, which is hydrogen and oxygen. So water molecule is split into hydrogen and oxygen, and 4 photons are released, or releasing 4 electrons with the energy of 4 photons. This is called as photolysis, which is photo means light and lysis means breaking. So photolysis, where it is occurring? It is occurring in the grana of the chloroplast, and it is defined as splitting up of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen in presence of light. So we can say that this is the photolysis reaction, that is 2 molecules of water, 4 hydrogen, 4 electron plus oxygen, which is called as photolysis, that is a splitting of light. Then next part, we have seen two main phases, that is light, we are seeing light dependent phase. Then we have the end result of products of photolysis. So first is hydrogen ions are picked up by the compound NADP, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. So here the hydrogen ions will be picked up by this compound NADP to form NADPH. NADPH means the same thing, that is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate hydrogen. So it will be picking up one hydrogen atom and then getting into this. This is the end result of photolysis. Photolysis, it's occurring in the grana, that is the splitting up of the water to form hydrogen ions and oxygen ions. And then we have NADP plus electron plus hydrogen giving us NADPH in presence of an enzyme. Then oxygen component will be given out as molecular oxygen. So 2O is given as molecular oxygen. Then the electrons which are used in converting ADP, that is adenosine triphosphate, into energy rich compound, which is adenosine triphosphate, by adding one phosphate. So one phosphate will be added over here to the ADP. ADP is adenosine diphosphate. One will be added, which becomes as adenosine triphosphate. This process is called as phosphorylation, addition of phosphate. Since energy used in the process comes from light, the process is called as photophosphorylation. Okay, so here there are the end product of photolysis. So first we say that there is an activation of chlorophyll, then the water is split up. This reaction, splitting up of water, is called as photolysis, in which we get one as hydrogen compound, another as 4 electrons, and another is the oxygen. This is called photolysis because it is taking place in present, that because, which means the splitting up of light. The light is being split up. This is occurring in the grana, and splitting up of water molecule. Water molecule is split up into what? Into hydrogen and oxygen in presence of sunlight. So end result of the products is what? End result of the products is, that is the hydrogen ions are picked up by the hydrogen ions is picked up by the nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide to form NADPH, which is nicotinide. We can say nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate hydrogen, and then the oxygen which is there, we get the molecular oxygen from it. Then the electrons which are there, the electrons are present, they convert the adenosine diphosphate into adenosine triphosphate by adding a phosphate, which is called as phosphorylation. And since the light energy is coming from this, we call it as photophosphorylation. So I hope all these aspects are clear with you. We have the light independent phase. Light independent phase is also called a dark phase, or also called as the biosynthetic phase. We are using it as new term, which is called as light independent phase. We are not using it as dark phase now, because actually it is not that it is happening at night. It just means that the reactions are not dependent on light. They are just independent of light. So that is why we call it as light independent phase. So we can say that the reactions in this phase do not require light energy, and they occur simultaneously with the light reaction. That is a time gap between two being less than even 1,000th of a second. So we call it as light independent phase. So here we can see the first one, that is conversion of glucose into starch and other chemicals. So green plants which are there, they after the process of photosynthesis give out glucose. This glucose is stored in the form of starch. Okay, as soon as the process is the photosynthesis process is starting, or it is going on. Now here many glucose molecules are transformed into one molecule of starch, and this process is called as polymerization. So they are directly transformed into starch, so it's called as polymerization. And some plants which are there, they will be changing this glucose into sucrose, that is cane sugar, which chemically is called as disaccharide or double sugar, or some into oils. So here we can say that these phases or these reactions are independent of light. That's why we are calling them as light independent phase. So we can say green plants which are there converting glucose, storing it in the form of starch, or else another thing is glucose is being converted into sucrose or oils. So these are the process where conversion of glucose is turned into starch and chemicals. Now these reactions do not require light, that's why they are called as light independent phase. Then we'll go to the next one. Now you can see the summary of all the process here, simplified summary. Light dependent reactions occurring in the thylakoids, and here they are occurring in the stroma. Okay, so here you can see that light is splitting water into oxygen, hydrogen and electron. Oxygen is molecular oxygen, it is there. Hydrogen, it is NADPH. Electron giving NADPH and ATP phosphorylation. ADP and phosphate is also given here. Light independent reaction, only carbon dioxide getting into glucose with the presence of hydrogen and forming starch. So this is light dependent independent reactions and light dependent reactions. So these two, the light phase, the dark phase. Dark phase is not called now, we just call it as light independent phase. Then there are some adaptations of the leaves to perform photosynthesis. One such adaptation is a large surface area. Okay, why the large surface area? So that maximum sunlight is absorbed for the process of photosynthesis, for maximum light absorption. So narrowing of the leaves in certain plants is to minimize transpiration and to conserve water, which we already discussed in transpiration. Then the leaf arrangement is in the right angle as the light source to obtain maximum light. Then cuticle and upper epidermis are transparent and waterproof to allow light to enter freely. The cuticle, you know the what is cuticle, right? Numerous stomata which are there, which help in rapid exchange of gases. Then thinning of the leaves, reducing the distance between the cells and facilitating rapid transport. Leaves are thin so that distance between the cells are reduced, and they facilitate the rapid transport. Then chloroplasts are concentrated in upper layers, you know that, which is the mesophyll cells. Extensive vein system for rapid transport to form the mesophyll cells. Then finally we have the end product of this. Now the end products of photosynthesis majorly are glucose, water and oxygen. So now we just discussed that how the glucose is utilized. Okay, so we can say simple sugar glucose is used for 4 different ways. First is it maybe that is it is immediately consumed by the plant cells when it is really needing the glucose. Secondly, it will be stored in the form of insoluble starch. Thirdly, it will be converted into sucrose, and fourth, we can say that it's used in synthesizing the fats or proteins, etc. So these are 4 ways, 4 things in which the glucose is stored. First is immediately consumed. Second, it can be stored in the form of soluble starch, converting into sucrose, or it's used in synthesizing of the fats or proteins. Then water. Water, obviously, its water produced may be reutilized or in the continuance of the photosynthesis. Then oxygen. We can say that oxygen may be used for the respiration in the leaf cells, but not all. Okay, only but the major portion of it is not required. So when it is used for for by the leaf cells, it is called as photorespiration, but major portion of it is not required, so it is diffuses out and we are using the oxygen. So it's not a waste, but organism require it for their existence. So glucose, water and oxygen. Then utilization of synthesized food and translocation. Now food which is manufactured in the leaf, we as we know, it will be reaching to all the parts of the plant. Then the glucose which is formed will be very rapidly during photosynthesis. It will be formed, and it cannot be transported to other parts with the same rapidity. So what happens, it is converted into insoluble starch for temporary storage in the leaf. So what happens, first of all, I said that wherever glucose is needed, immediately the cells will utilize that glucose, but some of the glucose cannot reach rapidly, so it is stored in the form of insoluble starch. So during night, at night what happens, this starch is reconverted into soluble sugar, which is transported in the solution through the veins of the leaf and then down through the phloem of the stem. Now we know that the phloem is responsible for the upward and the downward movement of those water minerals and all these things. So what we can say, it gets transported or translocated to different parts of the plant where it may be reconverted into starch for storage, that is as in potato, to produce energy for various functions in the plant. So what did we say? that first of all, when it is made, okay, when the when the glucose is formed, it is stored in the form of insoluble starch. So at night, this starch which is there, it is converted into soluble sugar and then transported to different parts of the plant. So when it is transported to different parts of the plant, again it is stored in the form of starch, and whenever the it is used for the energy functions in the, it produces energy to for the various functions in the plant. So this is the utilization of synthesized food and translocation. We call it as translocation because it is transported in the solutions again down to the leaf, so we call it as translocation. Okay, so here is the utilization of synthesized food and its translocation. Now here we go with the external and the internal factors. So first external factor is the light intensity. So in general there are four factors: light intensity, carbon dioxide and carbon dioxide concentration, temperature and water content. So let us see one by one. So light intensity and carbon dioxide. So we say that one would easily think that rate of photosynthesis will increase with light intensity to some extent. So it's true. So photosynthesis which is there, it is increasing with the light intensity up to a certain limit only, which is but when it is established at point S, which is 0.02 carbon dioxide concentration. Okay, but if at this point the carbon dioxide concentration is increased, photosynthesis increases further and again gets stabilized at point S, which is 0 S dash which is 0.05% carbon dioxide for the two factors together. So here you can see the graph over here. So here we can see that first the rate of photosynthesis here, and this is S dash, which is the increasing sunlight intensity, increasing light intensity. So here you can see that it is increasing with the carbon dioxide, but afterwards the rate of photosynthesis is stabilized after a certain point, which is 0.02% concentration. So after certain point it becomes stabilized. Okay, so here it increases, then it is a stabilized point. So both light intensity and carbon dioxide have a effect on photosynthesis. Then the second thing is the temperature. So here we can say that temperature, with a rise in the temperature, okay, with a rise in the temperature, rate of photosynthesis will rise, and this rise will be occurring only up to a temperature of 35 degrees Celsius, which is the maximum and the best for the photosynthesis, after which the rate will be falling, okay, and stops above 40 degrees Celsius. So the upper limit, most limit, when it is above 40 degrees Celsius, all the enzymes are destroyed. So a rise of 10 degrees Celsius up to optimum temperature doubles the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, so 10 degrees Celsius up to the optimum, that means till 35 degrees Celsius it's the best. So it doubles the rate. For example, rise 20 degree to 30 degree, 22 to 32 and 25 to 35 doubles the rate of photosynthesis. So are you understanding? 35 degrees Celsius is the best optimum temperature. Above that, no, photosynthesis will stop. That is above 40 it will stop. Till above 35 it will be taking place, but at a very low rate. After 40 it stops. Then we can say whenever there is a rise of 10 degrees Celsius, like 20 to 30, 22 to 32, 25 to 35, this will double the rate of photosynthesis. Then water content, we can say. So here water content, scarcity of water due to the reduced absorption of the soil or due to an excessive loss through transpiration reduces the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, so it will reduce, decreasing the diffusive capacity due to closure of stomata. So only 1% of water absorbed by the root is utilized in photosynthesis. So scarcity of water, that can be because of the absorption of the water from the soil. Okay, reduced absorption, or by excessive loss through transpiration, yes or no? Reduced absorption from the soil or excessive giving out of the water vapor. So this will reduce the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, and due to which because of which what will happen, the stomata will be flaccid, no opening of the stomata will be there, and then we can say that carbon dioxide will be less, and then only 1% of water is absorbed by the root in the process of photosynthesis. Then I hope you understood. So these are the external factors: one, light intensity and carbon dioxide; second, the light intensity, carbon dioxide, temperature and water content. So water content, we can say that when the absorption of water is decreased or the giving out of water is increased, we can say water content is reduced, rate of transpiration also reduced because of the decreased diffusive capacity of carbon dioxide by the stomata. Okay, then internal factor, one is chlorophyll, the second is protoplasm, and we'll see that the third one is nothing but the structure of leaf. So here we go. First of all, let's see chlorophyll. That is a nutritional deficiency of the minerals causes the loss of chlorophyll and hence drop in trapping solar energy. So if the plant has any nutritional deficiencies, the nutritional deficiency of the minerals can lead to the loss of chlorophyll. Protoplasm, dehydration of protoplasm for some reason reduces rate of photosynthesis. Why dehydration? Again the same thing, loss of water. Right. Similarly, accumulation of carbohydrate like sugars reduces the rate of photosynthesis. So if in the protoplasm there is not enough amount of water, what is dehydration? Loss of water itself. So if it's not there, again photosynthesis is reduced, and if more and more sugar concentration is there, so again the rate of photosynthesis is reduced. Okay, then the third point, we will be seeing the third point now. Now the third point is the structure of the leaf, which is responsible. Structure of the leaf, that is the thickness of the cuticle, distribution of stomata and size of the leaf also influence the amount of light and amount of carbon dioxide entering the leaf. If the structure of the plant cuticle is thick, or stomata is reduced, or the size of the leaf is somewhat different, it is narrow, then again the photosynthesis is reduced. Then here we have seen dawn to dusk natural changes. In every period of 24 hours, plants are subjected to regular cycle of changes. What is that? With light intensity, rate of photosynthesis increases from dawn to midday and declines at dusk, right? It is more during dawn to dusk, we can say dawn to midday, and then afterwards it declines. So plants, like other organisms, are respiring and taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. In light, the effects of respiratory activity are masked by this, but in darkness, respiration alone is responsible for changes in the gaseous composition of plants surrounding. So we say in the morning photosynthesis is there, so plants are taking carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen, but at night it is reversed. Plants will be giving out carbon dioxide and taking little amount of oxygen. So these are the changes. Then photosynthesis at night, some desert plants like and epiphytes, okay, are able to release oxygen during night as they perform photosynthesis using a different pathway called the CAM pathway. And examples are aloe vera, tulsi, neem, people. Okay, these are some example of the plants.